If you are like most people, then you probably think of yourself as a fairly rational consumer. When you're making complex purchasing decisions, you organize the competing offers fairly and objectively. You try to shop smart and get the best bang for your buck. But research shows that most of us drastically underestimate the amount of emotion that goes into most of our purchases. And I'm not just talking about the big decisions like buying a home or selecting a college. And as sellers and marketers, one of the best chances to leverage emotional impulses is when you're face-to-face with your buyer. Whether that's on a Zoom call or at a conference booth, whatever it may be, if you can make the right impression with the right approach at the right time, you allow prospective buyers to follow their gut and go with your product or service, which is why on today's episode, I have brought in my favorite expert in event marketing. Jake is the Dean of Admission at Eckerd College, and he brings in roughly $14 million in sales per year with his badass events that include Eckerd on the Road, open houses, admitted Eckerd days, and lots more. Jake, I am so excited. Welcome to the show.
This is going to be so much fun. Thanks, Travis.
To kick off our chat, I have a clip, as per usual, that I want to show you and the audience of a college tour that I think sums up the visitor experience that most folks have on campuses. Sean, do you mind playing that clip for us now?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this college tour. Now, I'm going to start this off as usual with a little canned joke about walking backwards.
I'm loving this already.
I hate this already.
Now, as you'll soon see, every college is pretty much exactly the same.
Oh, I know. She's dragged me to 8 schools so far.
I can't wait to get out of the house.
How about a couple boring facts that you could easily look up on Wikipedia?
I know all this information. I've actually already been accepted, and I'm going to mention it a lot.
Oh, one of those.
Yes, my daughter's very gifted, and I'm going to be mentioning that a lot.
Oh, you're even worse.
I'm never getting in here. I'm never getting it anywhere.
Ooh, fun fact, a magazine no one reads actually rated us the #2 best mid-sized liberal arts college in the Northeast, excluding Vermont.
Okay, Sean, you can pause it there. I think that's enough. First of all, what's your reaction to that?
I mean, it would be so funny if it weren't true, but it's true. Maybe that's what also makes it so funny.
This leads me to my very first question that I have for you. What have you noticed about what most colleges get wrong with their in-person events, like open houses and campus tours?
Well, and also for in-person events, we're just talking about college fairs too, which sometimes is the toughest sort of venue because you're in a smelly, sweaty gym, and you've got 100 colleges behind a little table, and you have to make that connection, right? That's your handshake to the family. Then, of course, you bring them to campus, and the one thing that I think most colleges and universities do incorrectly is they try to be something to everybody, right? They talk about the rankings, which nobody cares about. And they're trying to be like, oh, and we do this. Oh, by the way, we do this and we do this and we do this. And so all of a sudden the families are leaving and they're like, well, was that for me or I don't know. I can't get a sense of the place here. So it's a lot of colleges not understanding how to segment and tell a story that captures the minds of young adults.
And for like a specific audience, I think was like the best point there. Like going beyond higher ed, how do you think that mistake maybe translates to like for-profit businesses?
I mean, it's all the same, right? It's about creating those connections and having some trusting relationship where the person selling whatever it is they're selling, whether it's solar panels or college education or a car, is being their authentic self, right? So if you're being marketed to, and we're being marketed all of the time, the best marketing tactics are the ones that we don't know we're being marketed, right? We're just creating that relationship.
We're having this unconscious moment.
It must be kismet.
Yeah.
No, it's not kismet. It's marketing. But,
Okay, so that transitions into the first part of this podcast that I want to dive into with you is focusing on the planning that happens before events. So open houses are a big one that people are familiar with. And then we'll get into Eckerd on the Road at these college fairs, because I think that translates well to what a lot of companies do with going to conferences and having virtual booths nowadays. So when you hold events for your prospective students and families, what are a few things that you try to do to ensure RSVPs?
To ensure RSVPs is actually harder now than it used to be, because I think one of the pieces with COVID is that you just don't feel really connected to show up, right? And so you're just saying like, well, yeah, maybe I'll go and maybe I won't. So we do a lot to RSVP in terms of just reconfirming, retexting, 2 weeks out, 1 week out, 72 hours out, getting students to call to talk about, oh, it's going to be a great event. It's going to be really, really exciting. I have played around with the idea of like putting down $20 to come to an open house. I'll give you back your $20 if you end up showing, but put some money down on it.
Put some money down on it, and they'll be more likely to
because
show.
Our open house, and so I think a lot of colleges have decided to go this route of, well, people are flaky, right? They may show, they may not. We're just going to give them a map and a donut and go, and we don't do that. So we're going to have some, we're going to get people to figure out time out of their calendar to come and join us. We're going to feed them. That's all expensive to us. And so, feeding 300 versus 200 that show up, that's a cost.
That's true. I do like the idea, though, of the consistent follow-ups. Mm-hmm. I forgot to mention this. I worked at Eckerd College with Jake for about 2 years.
You did?
He was my boss.
Yes. You left me for an internship. Must mean I'm a terrible boss.
No, or else you wouldn't be here.
But you did leave me for an internship, I think.
I did, to come do this, which I'm kicking ass
You're
at.
doing an amazing job.
Thank you. How do you think some of the tactics you just talked about, whether it's like using your student callers to follow up, sending tons of RSVPs, or having people put money down, how can that translate to what for-profit businesses are doing with their events?
So, I think events in what way? Like a convention, or are you talking about?
It could be a convention. It could be like
stopping by the house to talk to you about. I'm going to talk a lot about solar panels because we just went through that. What I would consider a family RFP of having lots of people coming through talking about solar energy, and some of it was really good and some of it was really bad. So every time you talk about for-profit, that's where my mind's going. Buying
your solar panel and getting your request for proposal for them?
Basically, yeah.
Going through like 7 different vendors for that?
Oh my gosh, yes. And actually coming to the house, right?
Have you seen any tactics that they've employed to like ensure that you showed up for the call, or is it just like...
So, Zoom reminders are good. Mm-hmm. Text messaging is good. If you create an appointment, that's fine. The worst tactic, the thing that drives me crazy is that salespeople or marketing are not cognizant nor respectful of my time as a customer. So if you say this is going to be a 20-minute conversation and I'm still trying to get out of the call 45 minutes later, I'm annoyed. So you just set those boundaries, set those guidelines to say, we need to talk about this, or how familiar are you with the product, right? I don't need to bring in all of my props and show you, ooh, these solar panels break and these don't break. And I know how solar energy works by this point. So just tell me why you're different than all the other people.
Yeah, gauge the audience.
Gauge the audience, because so many of them just want to stick to the script.
Yep.
And whatever that script is, whatever their boss, I guess, told them works. Mm-hmm. But I'd rather have a conversation and meet me where I'm at. Right?
That's a good point. I think when it comes to preparing for like how you present yourself, when I worked with you, I found that we did so much attention to detail, from how you stand in front of your booth, what the colors of the materials on your booth are. What are some of the tactics that you've used for conference booth, college fair booths, and just like in-person presentations on the road?
Yeah, so I think, one of the pieces, absolutely right, is that you need to stand out among all of your competitors. And how do you do that in a very confined space? So we used a lot of color, right? We're here in St. Pete, we're in Florida. When I got to Eckerd, everything seemed very like black and teal. And that just, it didn't scream, come to sunny Florida, we've got a beach on campus. So we changed a lot of that branding in terms of, really leaning into the teals, the lime, citrus colors, right?
I like that.
And then doing that with the publication so that they pop, against all of these other, colleges and universities. And let me tell you, colleges and universities love red, green, and purple. It's like dark colors, right? And so this idea of come to Eckerd. We're a serious place, not too serious, and we're here in Florida, and you have to have that mix. And I think that's also important, when we might be doing things on the road, that we actually like each other. Audience members pick up on that, right?
They do.
To the music. Remember we had all those conversations about music?
We did.
Yeah, and what music we wanted to use, especially if it was like a pre-show. So even in our on-campus events, we spend a lot of detail talking about music and making sure that it's there as ambient noise.
That's one of the things that I learned, and again, the reason you're on the show today is just like, I feel like you are a connoisseur of taste, right? Like when it comes to events especially, we would go on the road, and this is something that I'm seeing more and more in the for-profit like tech space, where they're like taking their brand on the road and they're like doing a touring schedule. And that's something that we started doing together with Eckerd, where we would go to a city where we found that we had a lot of prospective students and families, and we would find the right location. We would spend hours picking the right hotels with the, in the right location that had easy parking, thinking through all of these different things to like, what kind of music were we going to play? Should we play music, or is everyone just going to be sitting in silence, sitting in a fold-up chair in some auditorium that's inside of a hotel they don't care about? Like,
I'm shuddering already. I hate that. I hate that silence before the thing starts, and everyone's just sitting there and they're afraid to like cough because it's just, oh God. My palms are sweating. I'm just thinking about it.
So coming back to like how you plan for when people come to you, right? Like a big thing that like our friends here at Coastal Creative do, they have like these, events that they hold to try to drum up business and have people come check out the space. I noticed that the level of personalization that you and the Eckerd admissions and marketing team put into the events is what really set apart. Like, and we would hear it from families. They're like, "Oh my God, I usually just get a donut and a map."
Yeah.
And it's like, "See you later."
Yeah.
Whereas like we would spend hours and hours and weeks and months planning and preparation, and just some of the things that we would do, just as a reminder, because I think you might forget because it's like you just do it.
Right.
But like we would, for admitted student days, so for days where we had people who had already been admitted to the college, and they may or may not have committed to the college, they would come on campus, but we would go one by one. And we would make sure that before they arrived, they had a class visit scheduled to go sit in on an hour-long, class with their preferred major that they had told us that they enjoyed.
To the best of our ability.
To the best of our ability. And then we would also, like, if they wanted to meet with a professor, we would do our best to facilitate a one-on-one meeting during that professor's office hours in the field they were interested in studying. Like, that level of personalization is amazing. So I say all of this, which is like, how are you getting inspiration to do these types of like personalization, and like, how do you do it at scale without catering to everyone, like you talked about earlier?
Yeah, and so I think it's always having this mindset. And the reason why we do so much personalization, it works.
Yeah.
People like to know that you know them, right? They have spent money and time coming to campus. And who knows what happened before they got to campus, right? Dad got lost in the car, someone's GPS wasn't working, there's a sibling in the back who hates this. I've been on all these college tours. Why does he get all the attention, right? So you want them to come and just be like, okay, we're here.
Yeah.
And you're expecting me, right? It's just the same as if you go to someone's house and you show up and you're like, oh, I thought we were having a dinner party. It doesn't look like you're ready for me at all. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But also that's part of our brand, right? We're a small liberal arts college that talks about that very hand-built education, that one-on-one interaction. And so if you are not delivering that through the admission process, or is it really going to happen once you're there, right? And so that you have to understand is how I'm selling, how I'm marketing. Is it part of the experience once you sign the contract or once you put down the deposit, right? It's an extension of who you are as a business.
That's so beautifully said. Thank you. Yeah. Like it's an extension of your brand, like what your differentiated offering is.
Absolutely.
Like you differentiate yourself from the major university and colleges by providing this experience, and they get to see it. They're like, oh wow, Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We get it now.
Yeah.
This is what we're paying for. This is what is different. And this is what we're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Even to the point, remember the name tags where, they wear lanyards and the color of the lanyard is different depending on who your admission counselor, who your recruiter is.
Yep.
Because they may not know that from the beginning, but at some point they figure it out. It helps us, right? If I see a red lanyard, I'm like, oh, that's my kid. I need to go, talk to them. But it also gives them a sense of like, oh, I have a red lanyard. You have a red lanyard. We must be from the same region geographically. Yeah. And so that just, it's that level of detail and attention that is really, really important. It is exhausting. You have to think through it all. Lots of moving parts. But people see that, they may not see what's behind the scenes, but they can sort of understand all of the goings on behind the scenes to make it happen.
I think one of the coolest things too is when we know these events work because of two reasons that I remember, and maybe you can shed some more light on this, is like people would just be like, I'm ready to sign. I'm ready to sign up and put the deposit down today.
And get a stamp on their name tag.
Yeah, we would give them a special little Eckerd
stamp,
seashell stamp.
People go bananas.
I want the stamp.
I want the stamp.
Daddy, I want the stamp.
I want to go neg too, right? They don't say like, I want to go to Eckerd. Let's go. I'm ready to commit. It's like, I want the stamp.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, it's an expensive stamp.
It's a $500 stamp.
Yeah.
That's just for the deposit. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
400.
It's not much inflation. But it is that sort of emotional, I want to be part of this group that commits, and they get so excited, which is really awesome to see.
To me, the takeaway here too is like, if you're planning, whether it's virtual or in-person events, and we would joke about this. We'd call it like Campeckerd, and it felt campy, like you're going to summer camp for the day. Yeah. But when if you've ever been to a summer camp, like you felt so special when you got there. Everybody was like super high energy. The counselors are tossing a football. Come on over here. What's your name? Where are you from?
Yeah. You're sad when you leave summer camp.
Yeah,
right? You
exactly.
made these friends, and back to the real world. And you're kind of sad to miss it. So that is the type of
event. Like you're creating an atmosphere to escape to.
We're like, that was so much fun. I'm sad it's over, but I can't wait to come back.
There you go. That's how I feel every time I leave Coastal Creative, guys. Just so you know.
I'm getting that.
All right. So my last question on planning is, what are some of the most memorable non-college events that you've personally been to, whether it was for fun, whether it was for business? What stood out? Have you borrowed any of the ideas and like brought them back? Is it going to Disney?
I mean, as funny as this sounds, I mean, and I am not a Disney freak. Like, I'm not getting the special license plate. I'm not buying all of the things. But from a marketing standpoint, Disney does it at such a great level of care. And so people are always like, oh, it's not the same as it used to be, whatever that means. I don't know what's in their head. Well, maybe I have some thoughts about what's in their head, but another topic for another day. But it is sort of that feeling of, I put my worries aside. I'm here. I'm in the moment. I'm enjoying myself. I'm enjoying time with my family or my friends. And this is just a really great time. And I think Disney does that really, really well. Some of that has to do with ambient music. Do not discount the ambient music.
That's the only takeaway everyone's going to have from this episode.
I'm a big believer that sort of it sort of, I don't know, catches you off guard a little bit. But then, of course, it's also a level of detail. I mean, you need to make sure that everything is not pristine, but it's ready to show off.
The small touches, though.
The small touches.
You need to make sure. I think another kind of lesson here that I remember from you is like, you need to have a team, and the team all needs to be like prepped and understand like, when we're working this event, like, I don't want to see you on your cell phones.
No.
I don't want to see you like distracted. I want to see you thinking of the small details. Like, does the coffee station have a place to throw out the stirrers?
Oh my gosh,
the little things
that boils my blood. I mean, in ways that you can't even imagine. But also the fact, like, during registration, let's have some cornhole, things. I don't know what they are. Cornhole boards.
There you go.
Cornholing things, cornholers. Let's have them out there, right? So you're coming here as a family. How do I, there are other 17, 18-year-olds. How am I going to make friends? toss around a beanbag.
Yeah.
Just at those types of creative thoughts. But absolutely, your team has to work so tightly together.
All right, let's switch gears to the second part of our episode where I want to talk about where you've pivoted from how important these in-person events are to how you've been able to restructure your virtual presence and events. This is one place I see a lot of business people, just entrepreneurs, sales, marketing, whatever you're in, they struggle with this. They struggle when they try to run virtual events. And I want to play a quick clip for you that recreates a conference call conversation in real life.
Any questions before we move on?
Yes, this is Beth. What's our best plan of attack for the second quarter?
Question
what
actually.
we should do.
Oh,
go ahead. Oh, well, I think what we should do.
It actually
really
depends on
diversify.
how you look at it, because
the really
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I think
Given sales, we're at a.
Let me just say that.
Okay.
That's a great graph, John. Tyler?
Well, my main concern with the projections from last year was that they're just insufficient. I mean, they're not even taking into account.
Did we lose Tyler again?
Hello?
John, are you guys taking distributions? John?
Oh, my bad. I was on mute.
So yeah, I think, again, a fun, silly example, but this is truly one of the hurdles with virtual events, right? Like you have people that are just clumsy. It's clunky sometimes. It doesn't give you that same warm, fuzzy feeling and excitement that we were just describing. But these are where I'm going to hound you with some questions. So the pandemic obviously impacted your ability to go on the road, to recruit students on campus and have them on campus. What are some of the ways you tried to fill that void?
Yeah, so, I will also preface this in saying we have learned a lot in the past 2.5 years, right? Particularly colleges and universities, extraordinarily behind the 8 ball in virtual events. We used to think the only way you can learn about our school and the best way to do it is to come to campus and visit. Well, that's not very accessible, A. And we were totally not thinking about how to use virtual social, digital social media as part of our recruitment strategy. Now, beginning of pandemic, people were much more forgiving because we were all just trying to put it all together and it was new for everybody. Virtual is here to stay, but it needs to be good. So people are less forgiving for virtual. And that means prepping if you're having a panel, prepping your panelists, right? This is what we're going to talk about. Here are some questions I'm going to ask you. Making sure that your system works. Making sure everyone feels comfortable in whatever platform you're using.
That's a big one. I do digital events for a living all the time. And I was a guest speaker for a panel, and I had never used this tool before. And they encouraged me to try it the day before, but it wasn't a requirement. And it was a shit show because my Chrome browser did not want to accept that, I was allowing access to a microphone and camera. I had to close out. It was just like I was wearing a panda costume in the middle of this, so it was even more embarrassing. I was trying to just get some laughs. And I think that's a huge one, is like working with your guests and like preparing with them and making it mandatory.
Yeah. So, all of that work that goes into an in-person event, the planning, the detail, the checking the grounds to make sure, the grass has been cut. Same level of detail for virtual. Just because you're doing it from the comfort of your chair at home or in your office, same level of detail. You can't just flip on the camera and all right, we're going live.
Do you have anything that makes your blood boil with virtual events that you just can't stand?
Yes. So, no content. So what are we talking about, right? So if it's just sort of filler, what? This is annoying. No, I can't do this. So that, and again, my time is limited. You're going to have folks who are not a captive audience. They're not in your campus, not talking to you face to face. The timer's going to be going off. The kids are playing in the background. Someone's calling. Someone's, knocking on the door. You're looking at 4 other tabs on your browser. So being aware of someone's time, but also being captivating enough that they want to stay connected. But that also means that it does not have to be an hour-long conversation.
Yeah.
If your content is captivating and you do it in 20 minutes, perfectly fine. The other piece that really drives me crazy is when they don't allow audience members to ask questions, right? You're not having any dialogue with your audience. You're just, I guess, doing what we're doing right now.
It's like they have a seat at the table.
Snorted at his own joke.
One of the things that I saw that you guys had put together pretty quickly was your virtual tours on YouTube. You created a playlist where you had students in a fun way with good music kind of go to different buildings showing off dorms. Like they would grab a GoPro or whatever they were holding, but it was professionally done. Like it was in 4K. It was like, it was nice.
Well done.
What were you trying to convey thematically in some of these videos?
So we wanted a level of authenticity. That's why sort of the GoPro, it looked like, I'm a student, I'm going to show you around my campus.
Yeah.
We wanted that sort of familiarity that you would get if you were visiting on campus, stories, right? That's that first clip, right? I'm going to tell you a bunch of facts that you really don't care about or that you can find on Wikipedia, right? Nobody wants that. They want to hear stories. And so trying to have that very personal touch still in a virtual space.
Yeah.
As well as, yes, they were, done through Marcom, Marketing and Communications. We edited them. We reviewed them, draft, so that they were well done, but still had that look of, this isn't a overly produced video. This seems more authentic, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting the real deal here.
And the good news is that I looked at the stats on the plays. You've got thousands, tens of thousands of views on these videos.
Yeah, the Residence Hall one particularly, because I think that's what students really, want to see. And I think what's nice about that video is we could have just said, oh, here's a room. You get 2 beds and 2 dressers. But it was really her talking about, this is the lounge, and I like to go and cook with my friends. And here, I'm going to take you on this place.
There's like other students walking around. It didn't feel overly produced, which I think was a good theme to stick with your brand, because the brand of Eckerd is like, be you, think outside. We're different, think different, and we're not like a pretentious, perfectly polished place.
Well, there's space for that. So some of our content is very well produced at a very high level, and we spend a lot of time on that.
Okay.
Both on videography and photography. But there's also a space for this sort of middle of the road. And then there's space, particularly in social media with Instagram, where we're not promoting our own photos. What we're actually doing is sharing content from our students. And so those 3 different levels, we think a lot about where does that fit in our communication flow and who's the audience, because you're going to have parents and students coming at this from different angles, right?
I like that. It's using your customers to create the content that you put out on your social media in a way that doesn't feel forced.
Right, and thinking about, okay, if I have a Facebook presence, what is that and how is that different than YouTube videos or my website or Instagram?
Yeah.
Those are different channels for different audience members. And so how do you say, well, we're going to do this on Facebook because that's what Facebook is for?
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead, and I think the last question I have for you is...
We're done already?
On this section.
Oh, good.
What do you think is going to be the most important for maintaining the momentum you have for both in-person and virtual events over the next couple of years?
So what's important in terms of just continuing with that, and continuing the success?
Yeah, like are you like, this is where we're at today, which is great, but I think where we need to go next with our virtual and in-person events is going to be this, like the evolution of it.
Yeah, so I think in-person will still just continue to be... focusing on the differentiators, right? Sort of doing that one-on-one, making people feel welcome. I'm not quite sure moving forward how comfortable people will feel, and not COVID related. I just think, in their schedule of coming to those, history museums or ballrooms of a hotel and sitting there for 45 minutes. I'm not quite sure that that's the right place to spend our resources, time and money.
Yeah.
So that may go away in lieu of more highly produced virtual content that also seems really authentic and real. So doing more, I like to consider myself a little talk show host for the virtual content. So I like to, get a panel of people and, let them chat. So my dream would be just to get a real budget to do that and have a studio space. Maybe here, we'll see.
Yeah, maybe here at Coastal.
But I'm not sure if people want to sit in a hotel room for 45 minutes to an hour and listen to people talk. I think it's nice, it's great, but does it remind them too much of like timeshares? That's so for
true.
Free breakfast.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to you about
You get a $100 Visa gift card.
Yeah, and it pays for itself after 20 years. Let me take you on a tour.
I think that's a great call out. I think learning what types of in-person events maybe need to be scaled back and how you can improve your virtual events, right? Like renting out a really cool studio space and making it 30 minutes that's like a tight 30. Like the people that are on the panel are prepped, they're ready to go, the lighting is good, the audio is good, there's music in a waiting room, there's it's like you can tell they've got their shit together.
And part of that virtual space is that you as a company, you as a business, Zoom is accessible, but the problem with Zoom is you don't always know who's watching. So really figuring out how are we going to get this to work so we know who is engaging with this content, and then looking at that data. Did it move them? Did it move the needle at all? And if you don't know, it's a waste.
It's true. That's a good operational point to think about is is your virtual presentation tool interconnected with your other tools of monitoring students? Like when I worked at Eckerd, we used Slate. Are we still using Slate?
Yep.
Okay. And then you would be able to go in and track their interactions and be able to just look like they attended. Did they also now get admitted, and did they now also put down their deposit? So,
and that's why we partnered with a great company, Platform Q.
Okay, so shout out Platform Q.
Yeah, they don't just do colleges and universities, but they actually have a unique token in the URL. So when you send out the URL to our virtual panel, that customer, that student, is going to have a unique token that gets them in so that you can track their engagement. Did they come? Did they watch the recording? How long did they stay? Right? It's not Big Brother. It's just trying to figure out, was this worth it? Did this help? People love Zoom, but I don't think there's a way to track that yet. I don't know.
Jake, is there any last words that you would like to put out there for folks who want to also be connoisseurs of excellent events and taste?
Keep your eyes open all of the time, and start to realize what you like. And do you remember we used to go out and you'd be like, oh, this is a Jake place,
yes,
or this is not a Jake place. Just be aware of what your taste is. Everyone has a level of taste, and there's lots of places in St. Pete that I love, hotels across the country that I've been to where I'm like, I just love this. I love this look. So ask yourself, why do I love it? What is it about this place? Is it the staff? Is it the ambiance? Is it the decor? Pick up on that.
I think that's awesome advice. And no, it doesn't mean being a snob. It means knowing what you like and figuring that out, and then trying to recreate it and duplicate it in your own events.
Yeah.
Even if you're just
if it's authentic, right?
Even if you're just hosting family at your house. That was a great analogy you gave earlier of oh, you weren't ready for us. That's awkward. It's been lovely having you on the podcast.
It's been so much fun.
Thank you for coming on. I definitely want to have you come on again in the future. So
sounds good.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
All right. Tune in next week. We'll have another episode of the Customer Engagement Lab. As always, we appreciate y'all, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Engagement Lab, brought to you by PandaDoc. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or connect with us on LinkedIn. We love to hear from you and what you think of the show.